Hi everyone, this is Fel. I wanted to post a quick update while I'm working on my larger video project to talk about some really exciting news on Elden Ring. We got Miyazaki interviews from several publications today. I'll be drawing from all 3 interviews I read, but I won't be discussing the lore, the world, or the gameplay mechanics. Some of that stuff gets a little too close to spoilers for me. So let's get it out there. Invasions are confirmed. Google Translate isn't perfect, but there's no room for interpretation or confusion. PvP is definitely a thing. Not only was Miyazaki clearly confirming invasions, he seemed really enthusiastic about them too. It's nice to see him excited about the direction they're taking. He also mentions that covenants will exist. He says there's going to be a twist to them, but that the co-op will still use the classic summon sign system. The multiplayer covenants will add their own flavor to the online, with each having its own characteristics that contribute to the online role-playing aspect of the game. He also says they're working on changes to the PvP to reduce frustration on both sides. Part of me hopes that this means an end to the DCs and the instant resummons, but we're gonna have to wait and see. He was most likely referring specifically to the changes they made to the PvP to make it work in an open world setting. First of all, horses will not be usable in multiplayer. Now, I don't know if this means getting invaded will make your horse disappear, or if you just can't be invaded on horseback at all. Assuming it's the latter, it implies that Elden Ring may work like Bloodborne, where you almost always invade groups instead of solo players. Since co-op forces you to trek on foot, it might open you up to invasions. That being said, solo hosts who explore on foot may also be open to invasions, in which case we have a Dark Souls 3 scenario where the game prioritizes worlds with phantoms, but it allows for solo hosts too. He also mentioned that the resources needed for hosting multiplayer, stuff like humanity or embers, would not be a big limitation in Elden Ring. In fact, they may be getting rid of that mechanic entirely. Part of me would miss the tension of losing something limited on death, and a change like this might also sacrifice some player incentives in the process. For example, in Demon Souls, the scarcity of ephemeral eyes really pushed players to engage with the online to regain body form. But I also recognize this as a good move for Elden Ring's online longevity and accessibility. By making the online interaction functionally infinite, players can get help at any point, and FromSoft doesn't have to slap a lazy, poorly designed easy mode on the start menu like every other game does. I think it's a fair way to make everyone happy. The player also will retain some character progress even if they die. Miyazaki cites Sekiro as an example here, probably in reference to how Wolf keeps his unused skill points, even through death. He clarifies that bloodstains still exist, but he implies that there's some other progress metric that doesn't drop on death. He also mentions a tweak to the summoning sign system to reflect the change to an open world. Certain areas will be highlighted for people to place their summon signs, so hosts don't have to search huge areas to find signs scattered around. As a final nod to this idea of reducing frustration, they're tweaking the game to avoid battles becoming an endless hide-and-seek. To combat the hide-and-seek game, they're including interface elements to provide enough information to both participants. When he says both participants, I assume this means everyone, including the host, their co-op phantoms, and invading players. Maybe this would be a UI element, or maybe player positions will be shown on the map, because yeah, apparently there's a map now. This might take away a bit from the immersive nature of invasions, but the quality of life improvement would go a long way. I sure don't want to spend another half hour playing hide and seek in the Ring City with an obscuring ring host who's resummoning his friends. But that's all we have so far on the online systems of Elden Ring. FromSoft's working on some really interesting changes, and I hope this creative energy also bleeds into the rest of the mechanics too. If you want to read more on how the open world works, how weapons and skills interact, you can read more in the interviews I linked in the description, but I won't be going any further here to avoid spoilers. I just wanted to reassure everyone that things are looking bright, not just for PvE fans, but for PvP too. It's not going to be perfect, there's going to be tweaks and patches and the unavoidable adjustment period, but one thing's for sure. It's gonna be wild, y'all. Look forward to it.